I didn't expect the family reunion to feel like a battlefield. When I drove up to the Lakeside Lodge in upstate New York with my 6-year-old daughter Lily in the back seat, singing Disney songs at the top of her lungs, I honestly believed, naively, that this would be a weekend of reconnection. A little chaotic, sure, but not cruel. Certainly not violent. The wooden lodge looked just like the photos in the email invite. Vintage charm, big porch, outdoor fire pit, flags strung between trees, and enough chairs for everyone in the Sanders clan to awkwardly pretend we'd always been close. But what I didn't see coming, what no one did, was that a little girl's voice would unravel decades of family denial in under 5 minutes. And it would all be caught on microphone. If you're watching this now, thank you for being here. Folded hands. And if powerful, true stories of justice, healing, and family dynamics matter to you, please subscribe for more. Your support helps voices like mine, and my daughter's, be heard. Let me back up a little. My name is Olivia. I'm 38. A single mom. Marketing director by day, overthinker by night. I've raised Lily on my own since she was born. Her dad left when she was just a heartbeat old. And I've worked every single day since to make sure she never once felt like she was missing anything. Lily is bright, sensitive, joyful, loud in the way only safe children can be. She sings everything. Ties her shoes to Taylor Swift. Brushes her teeth with show tunes. She has this little voice that flutters between octaves and makes strangers smile in grocery stores. To me, she is light. To my brother Adam, she was a disruption. That's the word he used before everything broke. The reunion was Adam's idea, actually. A documentary crew had approached our family earlier in the year, interested in filming a feature about multi-generational family healing. They'd seen a post my mom made on Facebook about our tight-knit values, and wanted to follow us as a model American family. Yes. Seriously. The irony of that is suffocating now. But at the time, we all agreed. They set up boom mics. Interviews. B-roll. Some of it was staged. Most of it wasn't. That includes what happened on day 2. It was just after brunch. Lily was twirling around the main room in her yellow sundress, singing something from Encanto. Her arms were out. Her eyes were closed. She was in her own world. I was in the kitchen, helping wash dishes with my aunt. And that's when I heard it. Slap. Sharp. Hollow. A sound I've never unheard. Then crying. Screaming. I dropped the plate in my hand and sprinted. There she was, my daughter, on the floor, cradling her cheek, gasping through sobs. And standing above her was Adam. My brother. His palm still raised. His face, angry and righteous. She wouldn't shut up, he yelled. She's been singing all morning. No one could even think. I remember everything about that second. The color drained from the room. My stomach flipped. I couldn't move for half a second, my brain refusing to compute that the same boy who used to push me on the swings had just assaulted my child. And then, the worst part. My parents were laughing. I turned to them. My mom rolled her eyes. She's dramatic, she said. Your daughter, I mean. She needs discipline. Adam just got frustrated. Frustrated? Frustrated justifies hitting a 6-year-old? Did you see what just happened? I shouted. She's not hurt, my dad grunted. Lily was still crying. Still holding her face. Still trembling like a violin string. And that's when I knew. I couldn't stay silent. Not for family. Not for cameras. Not for the comfort of tradition. I scooped Lily into my arms and left. No goodbye. No explanation. Just out the door into the car, down the gravel path and back onto the highway, shaking, crying, trying to calm Lily while holding back the wildfire rising in my chest. She finally fell asleep around Albany. Cheek red. Dreaming, I hoped, of something better than that cabin. The next morning, I got a call from the documentary producer. His voice was cautious. Olivia, he said, I need to tell you something, and I wanted to ask your permission. Okay. Our boom mic picked it up. The slap. The yelling. Everything. Even your parents laughing. My stomach flipped. We weren't rolling for B-roll. We were adjusting equipment in the next room. But the mic was hot. He paused. I know this wasn't part of the story we set out to tell. But, this is the story now. I sat in silence for a long time. Then I said, use it. Are you sure? Use it all. Over the next week, I contacted a lawyer. I filed a report. I made sure Lily was safe, physically and emotionally. We met with a trauma-informed therapist who told her what I already knew. She was never the problem. She was the proof of it. The documentary aired 3 months later. It wasn't the feel-good feature my mother had imagined. It was called The Silence We Inherited. And in one of the first scenes, you hear the slap. Then Lily crying. Then Adam yelling. Then my mother saying, she's dramatic. Then, my voice. Clear. Shaking. But unbreakable. Don't touch my child ever again. The footage went viral. Adam was forced to resign from his law firm. His wife filed for divorce. He issued a half-hearted apology that no one believed. My parents went silent. No emails. No calls. No lawsuits. Just silence. Because you can deny words. You can even deny memories. But you can't deny a microphone. Lily watched the film one night, snuggled beside me on the couch. When it ended, she turned and said, he doesn't get to be mean anymore, right? I kissed her forehead. No, baby. Not anymore. She nodded. Then whispered, I like my loud. And I cried. Because that's the moment I knew. This wasn't just revenge. It was recovery. 3 days after the documentary aired, I got a call from an unknown number. Normally, I would have let it go to voicemail. But something in me was still alert, raw, ready to react. I swiped to answer. Olivia? The voice asked. It was quiet. Familiar. Yes. This is Caroline, Adam's wife. There was a pause. I just wanted to say, I believe you. It hit me like a wave I didn't know I was bracing for. You don't have to say that, I replied cautiously. No. I do. I saw the footage. All of it. Even before it aired. I saw the raw cut your producer sent to the family for review. Another pause. Her voice cracked. And I saw what I never let myself see before. I'm sorry. I waited. I'm leaving him, she continued. For good this time. He did things to me too. Never that blatant. But the control, the tone, the coldness. It's been years. And when I saw what he did to Lily, it just broke the dam. You gave me the courage to leave. For a moment, I couldn't speak. Then I said, thank you for telling me. And thank you for choosing yourself. No, she whispered. Thank you for showing me how. The following week, my inbox became a second heart. It pulsed. It ached. It overflowed with messages from strangers. Women. Men. Survivors. Parents. Even adult children who had been too loud at family events and remembered how that noise was punished, ridiculed, dismissed. They said things like, I've never seen someone protect their child so clearly in real time. You're the mom I wish I had. My daughter watched with me. She cried. Then she danced. Thank you for not staying quiet. And most unexpectedly, I heard from my high school choir director. Olivia, she wrote, I remember how you used to sing. Loud, free, always slightly off-key. But always full of joy. I'm glad your daughter got that from you. And I'm sorry we didn't protect your voice better when you were younger. It broke me. Because I had forgotten that I too had once been loud. And I had learned to shrink to survive. Lily, meanwhile, became something of a quiet hero at her school. Her teacher told me that after the documentary aired, one of the boys teased her, you're the crybaby on the internet. Lily apparently stood up, placed her hands on her hips, and said, yeah, I cried. Because I have feelings. And that's what brave people do. No tears. Just truth. She got a standing ovation from her classmates. And from me, every day since. But not everyone clapped. 2 weeks later, my mother called. The first time since we left the reunion. I let it ring once, twice, and then answered. Hello. Her voice was tight, restrained. Olivia. We need to talk. I said nothing. You embarrassed this family. Still silent. That film, it didn't tell the whole story. Adam was under stress. Lily was being loud, yes, but it wasn't violent. He snapped. People snap. Snapping isn't slapping, I said calmly. And laughing after it isn't love. She didn't respond. Do you even hear yourself? I asked. You're justifying your son hitting a 6-year-old. She wasn't hit. She was slapped, Mom. We heard it. The world heard it. Pause. I think you need help, she said. And that's when I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the absurdity of that sentence, coming from her, reached a point of pure irony. You think I need help? I said. Then I'm glad I got it. Because the only thing I've needed help with is unlearning everything you taught me about silence. Click. She hung up. Later that night, I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. Not for vanity, but to search. To search for the girl I used to be, the one who would have apologized to keep the peace. The one who would have taken her mother's words as gospel and folded inward with guilt. She wasn't there anymore. Instead, I saw a woman who had protected her child at full volume. Who chose noise over numbness. Who didn't bend anymore, not even for blood. The next morning, Lily made breakfast. I say made, but really she poured Cheerios into bowls and added exactly 6 strawberries to each. For good luck, she said. As we sat at the table, she asked, Mom, am I famous now? I smiled. Kind of. Will people be mad at me? Some might. But most won't. Most people love you. She tilted her head. Even when I sing too much? Especially then. She grinned. Okay. I'll sing all the time now. I nodded. You should. She sang as she ate. A messy little tune about strawberries and sisters and cereal and Saturday. It was off-key. It was perfect. 2 weeks later, the school district reached out. They asked if I'd be willing to speak during a parent education night. Topic: creating safer emotional spaces for children. At first, I hesitated. But then I said yes. Not for the spotlight. Not for the documentary. But for every parent who doesn't know how to stop generational harm until they see someone else do it. And for every child still learning that their feelings are not an inconvenience. The night of the event, I stood in a school auditorium in front of 50 folding chairs. I told them what happened. Not just the slap, but the history, the fear, the gaslighting, the decades of subtle messaging that taught us kids were ornaments, not people. That noise was disrespect. That obedience was virtue. Then I told them about Lily, and how she made me braver than I ever intended to be. When I finished, a father stood up and said, My dad used to hit me for crying. I swore I'd never do that to my son. But last week, I did. I yelled. I scared him. This week, I apologized. And I told him it's okay to feel things. Thank you for giving me permission to break the cycle. I choked on my tears. Because that was it. That was the real revenge. Not Adam losing his job. Not the documentary going viral. But this. A room full of people choosing to do better. Later that night, Lily asked if she could bring a microphone to show and tell. Why? I asked. So I can tell everyone how I got strong, she said. And how being loud is a superpower. I tucked her in. You already are a superhero. People think revenge is fire. But sometimes, it's just volume. The courage to speak louder than the legacy that tried to silence you. The following month, our mailbox became a landing pad for opportunities one never imagined would find me. A letter arrived from the National Parent Advocacy Forum, inviting me to speak at their annual conference in Chicago. A writer from The Atlantic reached out asking to do a feature on generational gaslighting and the rise of the protective parent. A podcast producer offered me a segment titled, When Silence is the Villain. But the most surprising request came from Lily's kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Ortega. She invited me in for something simple. Something I hadn't expected. Career Day. I laughed when I read the email. Is emotional resilience a profession now? I joked to Marley, my best friend. She smiled. It is when you make a movement out of it. Marley was the one person who had stood by me through everything, even the years before this. She was the one who helped me rehearse my TEDx talk in her kitchen, while Lily built Lego cities beside us. The one who brought coffee after therapy. The one who, after seeing the raw documentary cut, simply texted, "She's lucky to have you. You're lucky to have her." That's it. That's the whole point. The night before career day, I asked Lily what she thought I should say. She sat cross-legged on her bed, holding a stuffed fox in one arm. "Tell them you save voices," she said. "Save voices. Yeah. You help people speak when they were told not to." I blinked. "That's a really beautiful way to say it." She nodded. "That's your job." And I realized, she was right. I wasn't a therapist. I wasn't a lawyer. I wasn't some high-powered changemaker. But I was a mother who said no. Loudly. Publicly. And I didn't back down. That mattered. It mattered more than I ever thought it could. Career day came with sunshine and juice boxes. I stood at the front of a classroom full of 5- and 6-year-olds, nervously smoothing my blouse as tiny eyes blinked up at me. I introduced myself simply. "My name is Olivia Sanders. I'm Lily's mom. And I'm someone who helps people find their voice again after they've been hurt." One boy raised his hand. "Like superheroes?" I smiled. "Sometimes." Another girl whispered, "I wish my mom had a voice." It took everything in me not to cry. After I left the classroom, Mrs. Ortega pulled me aside. "I wanted you to know, after the documentary aired, we held a training on trauma-informed discipline. A few of the staff resisted. But most leaned in." She paused. "And Olivia? That was because of you." Meanwhile, my parents remained silent. I hadn't heard from them in over 2 months. Not a birthday call. Not a card. Not even a "How's Lily?" And I had to admit, part of me still hoped they would reach out with something real. Not guilt. Not gaslight. Just honesty. But I also knew something deeper now. Not every silence is waiting to be broken. Some silences are just the sound of people making peace with who they've decided to be. And that too was an answer. Adam, for his part, spiraled. The firm dropped him. He issued a brief, unsatisfying apology online. I acted out of character in a stressful moment and have committed to learning from it. The internet was not impressed. People weren't buying out of character when a grown man hit a child, then doubled down in front of cameras. His wife Caroline never spoke publicly, but I knew she moved into a small apartment in Connecticut, started taking night classes in social work, and got herself a rescue dog named Bean. We texted a little. She was rebuilding, brick by brick. So were we. Lily started humming more. In the car. In the tub. While doing homework. Her voice was stronger, bolder, unfiltered. One evening while making dinner, she suddenly asked, "Do you think Uncle Adam is still mad at me?" I froze mid-stir. "Why would he be mad at you, baby?" She looked down. "Because I didn't say sorry." I knelt beside her. "You never have to apologize for someone else hurting you." She blinked. "But he said I was annoying." I swallowed hard. "You're not annoying. You're expressive." And he couldn't handle that. But Grammy laughed. I placed both hands on her cheeks. Some people laugh when they're uncomfortable, but that doesn't make what they laughed at okay. She nodded slowly, then asked, "Do you think I'm too much?" I exhaled the air I'd been holding since that day at the cabin. "No, Lily. You are exactly enough. And anyone who says otherwise isn't safe for your heart." That night, after she went to bed, I pulled out my old journal. Inside was a letter I had written to myself when I was 21. It said, "Maybe if I'm quieter, they'll love me more." I stared at the sentence, then ripped it from the journal, burned it in the sink, and whispered, "Not anymore." A week later, I got an email from the American Family Psychology Association. They had seen the documentary. They wanted me to contribute to a panel on emotional abuse within nuclear families. I hesitated. I wasn't a psychologist. I wasn't an expert. But I was a survivor. And sometimes, the most powerful credentials are scars that have healed into maps for others. I said yes. At the panel, I met a woman named Dr. Rhonda Ellis. She was in her late 50s, kind-eyed, with an accent that hinted at Mississippi roots. She told me something that changed me. Olivia, people think family is about protection. But really, it's about permission. Who gets to speak? Who gets to feel? Who's allowed to be messy, and who's expected to clean it up? I nodded. That day, she continued, you didn't just protect Lily's voice. You gave her permission to keep it. I cried. Right there on stage. Because no one had ever put it quite like that before. Later that night, Marley sent me a message. The world is watching. But more importantly, so is Lily. And she sees what a mother can be. That's your legacy. In the weeks that followed, the noise faded. The headlines slowed. But our lives got louder in all the best ways. Lily joined a kids' choir. I started writing a book, part memoir, part guide for parents raising emotionally safe children. And at night, we danced in the kitchen while pasta boiled, singing into wooden spoons, spinning in socked feet on linoleum. And one Friday, as I tucked Lily into bed, she whispered, "Thank you for not being quiet." I kissed her cheek. Thank you for making noise worth hearing. The email came at 2:07 a.m. Subject line, "We need to clear the air." It was from my father. Short. Cold. Weighted in all the wrong ways. Olivia, your mother and I think it's time we talk. This has gone too far. The film damaged our name and your brother's career. We're willing to forgive and forget. But we expect a public apology for the way you portrayed us. Family deserves loyalty, even when mistakes are made. I stared at the screen for several minutes, blinking, rereading. A public apology? For documenting what happened? For not shielding the people who stood by and laughed while their granddaughter was slapped? That night, I didn't respond. I closed my laptop and crawled back into bed beside my daughter, who slept soundly, hugging her stuffed fox. In that moment, I realized, I used to believe my voice was a weapon. Now I knew it was a boundary. And I wasn't handing it over. 3 days passed. No reply from me. On the 4th, a letter arrived by certified mail. My parents were threatening legal action. Defamation, they claimed. Emotional distress. It was laughable, except it wasn't. Because when abusers feel exposed, their instinct is almost always to reverse the roles. To paint themselves as the victims. To twist pain into obligation. I forwarded the letter to my lawyer, Danielle, who had seen far worse. She simply said, "They're bluffing. And even if they weren't, you told the truth. That's not defamatory. That's documented." The irony wasn't lost on me. They weren't upset about the slap. They were upset the world heard it. I drafted my reply in a Google Doc. But instead of sending it to them, I shared it on my blog. The post was titled, "When Family Asks You to Apologize for Bleeding on Their Knife." I wrote about silence. About how shame thrives in families like mine, where appearances matter more than accountability, and daughters are taught to protect egos before protecting their children. I wrote about how my voice was once their property, edited, softened, silenced. And how reclaiming it was an act of survival. The blog post went viral. Again. The comments poured in. Your words feel like my story. I've never felt seen until now. Thank you for writing what so many of us were never allowed to say. And this one stayed with me. You didn't burn the house down. You opened a window so we could breathe. Marley came over that night with wine and Thai food. We sat on the floor while Lily did watercolor paintings of birds. You okay? She asked. I nodded. Better than okay, actually. Just processing. Your post was fire, she said. Not angry fire. Truth fire. That's what I was going for. Then she asked, "Do you think they'll ever change?" I looked at Lily, her brush gently gliding blue over paper. No, I said. But I have. A few days later, I received a message from a woman named Stephanie. She was a family therapist in Oregon who had used our documentary as part of a trauma education course. Her message read, "Your story helped a client confront her parents after years of emotional neglect. She said your voice gave her the language she never had. Just thought you should know, you're saving people you'll never meet." I cried in the laundry room. Lily found me there, buried in a pile of unfolded towels. Are you sad? She asked. No, I said, wiping my face. Just really, really full. Around that time, a TV producer reached out about developing a short series around stories like mine: parents breaking cycles, children reclaiming agency, families redefining loyalty. They asked me if I'd host. I was terrified. But I said yes. Not because I wanted to be on screen, but because I knew what it meant for other women to hear their stories reflected back without shame. The first episode featured a mom named Rosalind, whose son came out at 14 and was told by their church-going family that he needed deliverance. Rosalind chose her son. She walked away from her parents, her church, and her entire social circle. On camera, she said, I'd rather have one child who feels fully seen than 20 relatives who only love me when I'm silent. That line echoed in me for weeks. Because I understood it in my bones. In the midst of filming, Lily's school called. She was being considered for a statewide Kids Leadership Award, nominated by her teacher for demonstrating emotional courage beyond her years. I sat in my car after the call and wept. Not because she was being recognized, but because the world was beginning to see her the way I always had. A month later, Lily asked me a question that stopped my heart. Mom, do you think Grammy and Grampy still love me? I took a long breath. I think they love what they can control, I said gently. And you're not something anyone gets to control. She nodded. Okay, she said. I don't need them to clap for me. Why's that? Because I clap for me. And just like that, 1,000 therapy sessions bloomed in my chest. On her 7th birthday, we held a small backyard party. She wore a sparkly pink cape and sang every single guest's name into a pretend microphone like they were celebrities arriving at an award show. Marley made cupcakes. I made peace. With the past. With the silence. With the reality that some family trees don't bloom, they splinter. And it's okay to plant new ones. Later that night, I watched Lily sleep, one hand curled beneath her chin. And I whispered, You are not too loud. You are the sound I waited my whole life to hear. 3 months had passed since the documentary aired. In that time, everything in our lives had shifted, but not all at once. Not dramatically. It was like watching winter melt, slowly, into something gentler. There were still cold days. But the sun stayed longer. The silence from my family remained. It was no longer aggressive, it had become brittle thin, as though it might shatter if either side spoke with too much truth. And I was okay with that. Because in their absence, I found a deeper presence, in myself, in Lily, in the life we were building with intention and care. One Friday afternoon, Lily brought home a drawing from school. It was a picture of a microphone, big, cartoonish, with sparkles around it. Beside it, she had written in crooked handwriting, "This helps people be brave." I tacked it on our fridge and stared at it for a long time. Because she wasn't wrong. That microphone, first the documentary one that caught her uncle's violence, then the pretend one she used at birthday parties, had become a symbol. Not of fame, not of noise, but of voice. That weekend, we were invited to a small family reunion. But not my family. Marley's. She had asked if we wanted to join them for a picnic out at Green Brick Park. No pressure. Just love. Lily said yes before I could. And I'm glad she did. Because that Sunday, under the shade of redbud trees and the smell of grilled corn, we sat with people who knew how to listen. Who didn't ask you to lower your voice to make theirs feel louder. Who clapped when Lily sang Twinkle Twinkle Little Star for the 100th time, and meant it every time. One of Marley's cousins, a kind-eyed man named Henry, crouched beside Lily after her impromptu concert and said, "Don't ever shrink your sparkle, okay?" She beamed. And I watched something settle in her shoulders. She belonged. After that picnic, Lily asked me a question in the car. "Mom, can families be made from people who aren't your family?" I smiled. The best ones usually are. She nodded. Good. Then Marley's my aunt now. Deal. Around this time, I got invited to speak on a panel at a national education conference. The topic, When the Family System Fails the Child, What Teachers Need to Know. It was the biggest audience I'd ever faced, over 800 educators, advocates, counselors. I wore a pale blue blouse, The one Lily said made me look like a morning sky. Before I walked on stage, I whispered to myself, "You're not the scared girl anymore. You're the woman who stopped the cycle." Then I stepped into the light. I told them what happened. I showed a short clip from the documentary. I described the aftermath, the silence, the denial, the way the family tried to rewrite the story. And I told them how my daughter taught me to stop asking for permission to speak. When I finished, the room was still. Then it erupted. Not in loud clapping, but in something quieter, more sacred. Tears. Nods. People coming up to me after, not to congratulate, but to confess. I was that child once. My sister went through the same thing. Thank you for saying what our training manuals never do. And then one teacher told me, we always say we want to protect kids, but we rarely ask them what that actually looks like. Your story shows us. Back home, Lily started a journal. She called it my big loud book. Inside, she drew pictures of animals singing, girls with capes shouting kind words, stars with voices. One page read, "If someone says you're too loud, say thank you and sing louder." It broke me, then built me again. One evening, I got a voicemail. From Caroline. "Hey Olivia. I just wanted to tell you. I started volunteering at a women's shelter. I've been speaking to young moms about control, about silence. And I wanted you to know, you started this in me. Your story didn't just set your daughter free. It set me free too. Thank you." I saved it. Not because I needed credit, but because healing echoes. It bounces from voice to voice. It ripples. Then, the unexpected happened. An email. From my mother. Subject line, dinner. It read, "Olivia, your father and I would like to invite you and Lily to dinner. Just the three of us. No agenda. Just conversation. If you're willing. If not, we understand." I stared at the screen for a long time, and then I did something surprising. I said yes. We met at a small cafe near my old neighborhood. Lily stayed with Marley. My parents arrived late, looking older than I remembered. My mother wore silence like perfume, heavy and overcompensating. My father avoided my eyes. The waitress brought water. We didn't touch it. Finally, I spoke. "If you're here to apologize, I'm listening." My father shifted in his seat. My mother blinked. "I'm not sure what to say." "That's a start," I said. They both looked tired. Not from age, but from years of pretending. I didn't need them to grovel. I just needed them to name it. My father cleared his throat. "What happened at the cabin, it wasn't okay." My eyes burned. My mother added, "And we laughed because we didn't know what else to do. But that doesn't excuse it." It wasn't everything. But it was something. "I appreciate you saying that," I said. Then I asked, "Why now?" My mother looked at her hands. We watched the documentary again. For the first time, we saw what the rest of the world did. She looked up. And it hurt. I nodded. Sometimes truth does that. They didn't ask for forgiveness. They didn't try to explain it away. For the first time in my life, they just sat in it. And I let them. When I got home, Lily asked how it went. I told her the truth. It was hard. But maybe, the first step. "Will they clap when I sing next time?" "I don't know," I said. "But if they don't, I will." She smiled. "That's enough."